Okay, we started 25th of January 2015, Tribal Leadership, Week 1, Introduction to Tribal Culture.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Carolyn Trimmer, and just appreciate you coming onto our webinar today. It is being brought to you by the Costa Rica Project, which is a global initiative. Our noble cause is stated as of now, together creating a legacy for conscious and healthy living. Our main presenter today is Hector Brito, and he has just a wonderful way of bringing his concepts into everyday language. And so he is going to talk to us a little bit about how the Costa Rica project just got started, why we're talking about tribal leadership, and then begin to give the introduction to tribal culture. Hector?
Hello. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay? I hope so. First of all, like Carolyn said, it is a wonderful day in the neighborhood. And I like to start by just simply asking everybody on the call and everybody within your capacity to hear me, just pause for a moment. Take a deep breath, a real deep breath, and just let it out on your own. Take a nice deep breath. Okay, so take another real deep breath and breathe out. And I want to ask you to ask yourself, why are you here? Are you here to learn something? Are you here to contribute? Are you here for both? And for those of you that have not been involved and have not seen the progression, let me give you a little bit of context as to how do we get to this place. In October of 2014, last year, 65 Level 1 graduates met for the International School of Detoxification Level 2, sponsored and taught by Dr. Robert Morse, ND. Leading up to this course, Dr. Morse inspired us to look into Costa Rica. Carolyn took action and actually visited several times. So during one of the session breaks, I met Carolyn and we started talking. She started sharing about her Costa Rica project. I was inspired to tell others. And then the others followed suit by talking on about this this Costa Rica project. That evening, we met to talk about the buzz that was going around in the room about Costa Rica project. So we inspired one another to action, not only at the class, but what we found was this incredible connection that we were meeting people physically for the first time, but we felt that we have known each other for a very long time. And that was the real buzz, how we had similar thoughts, how we had similar ideas, how we had similar experiences. And all of a sudden we were being validated one to another by our individual actions that coming together, we realized we were not alone, but we were actually like a family, if you will, a tribe that was out there and doing things separate, but yet all in line with one another. Subsequently, impromptus led up to more talks, which led to a Facebook page, which led to me sharing with Carolyn the Tribal Leadership book, and now that's why we're here today. So we're going to introduce this concept of tribal leadership. We are leveraging natural groups to build a thriving organization. As I already explained, by what happened naturally is that we moved from strangers to being a group. That group moved to being a tribe. And we are in the baby step stages of this tribe. So let me share with you another quote by Spencer Lewis. And it says this: no business, no movement, no activity can become any greater than the thinking minds and consciousness of the people who are back of the movement. And so this seminar, this webinar is not about the presenter, but it's about the tribe. And we do it best when we have an interaction. So Carolyn and Marco are free to jump in there and share at any time, and actually are encouraged to jump in there at any time and share. Because this is not about one single person. This is not about anything else other than us coming together to build something that everybody wins. And that's the thing that attracted me the most about the concept of Costa Rica. We term it Costa Rica only because Carolyn had taken action in that direction. So it just made sense. So again, this is what brings us to this point. Now, one more quote for you. The real leader has no need to lead. He, she is the content. She is content to point the way. So the real leader has no need to lead. They're just happy to say in that direction. And that is by Henry Miller. So what does that mean? It means that we're going to see a little bit more in this introduction to tribal culture, that leading is a very simple thing, and a lot of times we complicate it. So this webinar is for you if you're seeking for different ways to be a part of a bigger group, or you're seeking for ways to influence people. If you are happy with your voice and you want to share it. This is a way that functions at every level of our society. It's the concept that's different. It's the language that's different. And that's why we want to have an introduction that creates an environment for you. That environment is something that you carry with you. One of the things that we want to encourage you to do and share, that if you sign up for all 5 of these webinars, at the end, we're going to give you a 2.5-hour interview with author, speaker, and detox educator, Andrea Alexandria.
They do. You get new ones, but you got to tell them solo frutas, no azúcar. They'll put sugar in it.
Sounds like somebody's talking and it's coming in very low. Is that you, Marco?
That was me. I didn't think my mic was on.
Hey, Hector, it's
I'm having a reverberation.
And everyone's mic should be off, so let's carry on and see what happens.
I don't know who it was. Anyways, I will continue on and assume that everybody can hear me okay.
You're good, Hector. Continue on.
Okay. You know, one of the things that's going to help you is this interview with Andrea is about responsible detoxification, what you need to know in your health journey. And we're also going to share with you 10 steps of proper detox process, the 10 myths of dieting, the 10 facts about life and the wellness revolution. And when you invite your friends to participate in these series, you're automatically entered to win 50% discount to our first annual Responsible Detox Summit. It's going to be in the fall of this year. And what you need to tell your friends is that they can send an email mentioning that you introduced them to this 5-part series at info@CostaRicaProject.com. Again, that's info@CostaRicaProject.com. So the first part of this series is a 3-part series, and we're going to introduction to tribal stages. The second week is going to be following this one. So next Sunday will be noble cause and core values, and thereafter it'll be triad networks. What are they, and how to recognize them? We're going to have a 1-week break, and then on February 22nd, we'll resume with more on stages and triads, the deeper understanding on how to exercise these languages and how to use these triads and how to be a part of one. And then the last one will be how to be a thriving organization, how to recognize it, and how to pursue that goal to being a thriving organization. So this week, we're covering basic introduction. We're trying to go fast and hopefully at the same time making sense. Stages of tribal culture. And so if you haven't downloaded it yet, you can go to the free audio book at sapples.com/tribal. So here we come to a question. What's the relevancy of this? The relevancy is once you will read the book and once you hear the audio, it'll make a whole lot more sense. But let me ask you simply these. Have you ever had these questions that life in general sucks? Have you ever had the thought of my life sucks? I can't get anything done, whatever, it just, darn it, it's, we sometimes say that without realizing it. And other times we think of ourselves, I might think of myself as going, wow, I'm really that good. I'm all of that. I really know my stuff as a engineer. I'm really good. I'm one of the best. Or we are great, us. And I can speak just from my culture. I'm Puerto Rican heritage, and a lot of times we take a lot of pride that, we Puerto Ricans are better than the other Latin people. We're better than the Costa Ricans, whatever. And that's a we are great kind of thinking. But that encompasses a whole island. It actually reaches out to other people outside the island that are born in New York and in other places, because that thought of I am Puerto Rican and Puerto Ricans are better than means I'm not just thinking of myself, but I'm thinking of a larger populace, but not the whole populace of the world. In life, have you ever had this excitement over something and you go, man, life is great? That's where we were, weren't we? For those of us that attended the level 2, we were at life is freaking great. We were just jacked up to be with each other, and there was people from all over the world, which was really awesome. And we were at that stage for a short period of time. Everybody breaks up, goes to their own place, and then guess what happens? We are going backwards and are thinking, and then we start from life is great to, you know what, that group was cool, and then I'm like, okay, I'm the best, detox guy, and then life comes in, and I go backwards into, man, my life sucks because I can't be where I want to be. So we flux in between these stages, and our goal with this book and introducing this tribal leadership is to go beyond that place. So let me introduce to you another thought. First of all, when you hear the word tribal, what comes to your mind? If you haven't read the book, what came to your mind when you first heard it? I can tell you about me. When I first heard it, I had a whole different set of thinking, and it was, so what do you see when you, or hear when you heard the word tribal for the first time? Is it the media images of people with black hoods and big long swords ready to cut somebody's head off? Is it a bunch of people, walking around and, just little covers in the front and their back and living in poor conditions? Or does the word tribal garnish in your mind a gathering of happy people together? What about leadership? When you hear the word leadership, what does it mean to you? Does it mean boss? Does it mean master, dictator? Or what about the ideal that I must reach this position of leadership? Or the worst one is, I can never achieve that. So words have power. And a lot of times somebody else is giving us the definition of what those words are, and we were accepting it. That's why I'm taking the moment to introduce to you what this word tribal leadership really means. Think of, when you think of African people, do you think of, backwards people that they live very poor in dusty, places? That the African heritage, amazingly enough, has something to teach us, because in Africa, the tribes for hundreds and thousands of years have practiced something called fractal design in their geometry and how they lay out their living quarters. So what is that? A fractal are different forms, other geometric figures, because of the way in which they scale one another. It is a pattern that self-repeats. To take it another step further, doubling the edge length of a polygon multiplies its area by 4, which is 2, the ratio of a new to the old on the length side. Raised to the power of 2, the dimensions of the space to the polygon in which it resides. What does that mean? It means that these fractals are a mathematical phenomena that we see in nature consistently. You see that in seeds, and you see it especially in the sunflower seeds in their layout. And tribal is not some backwards thing. It is a place. See, humans don't run in packs. Humans don't run in schools. Fish run in schools. Predators run in packs. And preys run in herds. We don't do that. So what do we do? Do we run in groups? So what does any of this mean? Let's take a look at the geometry for the future. Again, this is just introduction. The geometry for the future, just to borrow those words of the fractal, and how I'm trying to draw for you a picture that I want you to see these African tribes. And a lot of times we think of us with all the technology being great and that we have it all together, and that stuff is backwards. But there's something to be learned from the intricacies of what they do. That's what I'm calling the geometry for the future. This is the future that we are creating. This is not a Carolyn thing. This is not a Hector thing or a Marco thing. This is, we create a future that is wide open so that we can design with purpose together. Math is a universal language. You realize that? That math is the language that is spoken by every culture in the world. So, to borrow that, a new ideology that if it works for one, it can work for all. This is what we hope to Let me take that back a little bit. It's not that, because we do hope, but we aim to do this through a tribal culture, is to create a place where everybody can take their passions, their vision, and their self-expression to a higher level and have the freedom to do it with pleasure and also make a living. What is the importance of this? The importance is we have been operating out of an I position versus the we. Think back at that slide where I was talking about, have you had these thoughts? And when I'm in the I, in the ego, I jump around from different positions. But when I come from the we position, I believe that, and I am convinced that my partners, that my friends, that my tribe members have a better answer that I can come up with by myself. And we have seen that several times over, haven't we?
Yes. It keeps happening over and over. The more that we come together as a we, it's just like we all experienced in the class. It's just igniting. It's empowering. It's, yeah, inspiring for sure.
Absolutely. And, you know, we've heard this said to us over and over and over, especially those of us that live in America. If it's to be, it's up to me. That's a classic phrase that we hear. That's an ego mindset. That's an I position. That is an independent mindset. So all of us, hopefully by now, know what the redwood forest is and the sequoia trees. These are huge trees. But what a lot of us may not know about these trees is that they have very shallow roots. They're gigantic trees that we can drive through them. How can these sequoia trees stand the test of time, storms, and everything? It's because they are not independent. Neither are they codependent, but they are interdependent with one another. They have intertwined the roots one with another so that there is no one tree that has its own roots. And that's where they get their strength. That's the kind of tribe that we want to be. That's the kind of we mentality that we are building in this culture called the tribal leadership. And it's a new identity that we are infusing into ourselves because we're finding this to be true. You know, think about all the people that came to that class and, you know, the subsequent people that have joined the group. We're all thinking in the same direction. What impacts us the most is the fact that we are finding others that think exactly like us. What's that impact mean? It means that if we feel that for us, it can be that others are going to fall in line with that, that they're going to want to be a part of that. And so when we're going to talk a little bit more about, you know, the core values and the noble cause. That noble cause is what the impact of this change is. So let me share again one more quote, and I love sharing quotes, by the way. And it's this: we cannot hide behind our boundaries or hold onto the belief that we can survive alone. That was quoted from Meg Wheatley.
You have great quotes to share with us, Hector, and it's another way in which we bring in people from the past, the present, to speak into the tribal mindset that we're building. Because in effect, these quotes are, you know, part of, we're aligned with what's being said in the quote, and so they're part of our tribal culture.
They really are. And, you know, there's another philosophical idea that when we read a book, such as a tribal leadership, or any book, especially older books, we are become part of the eternal conversation. When you read somebody's notes, you're becoming a part of an eternal conversation that will take place after we pass from this earth, because others will read about us. And that's the beauty of sharing history together and making history together. So let me ask you this. Have you ever had these thoughts that you have a feeling that you want to belong in this place where you are safe, a sense of belonging, a sense of unity, a real sense of friendship, not this fake stuff that you see somebody, oh, how you doing? But you don't talk to them again until you see them at that particular activity. But people that you know that have your back, that people that you know that you will want to work together. One of the things that Carolyn said to me that made such a beautiful picture in my mind is that, you know, we as Americans, we all are so individual. And when we go to Costa Rica, we're going to have all these Americans there, and anybody that's an individualistic thinking, everybody will have their own tools, but there'll only be so many gardens to work in. Why can't we just have one tool shed, and it's everybody's rake, everybody's, you know, whatever tool it is in there? That is a we mentality. That is true friendship. That is acceptance of one another. I know I like to live in a condition like that. So what are the benefits of forming a tribal culture? And I just mentioned some of them, but it really is that we build and or operate in tribes, and that, as I said, fish, they group in schools. Animals of prey either flock or pack, and animals that are animals that are predators, they either pack or flock, and animals that are of prey that are preyed upon, they are herds. What does that mean? It means human beings, we don't pack together. We don't walk around in herds or in fish schools or in flocks. We tribe. So do you catch that vibe? We tribe together. We're not, that's what human beings do. And when we understand that, now we start having a tribal culture. Now we start having a tribal language, something that changes our mindset. So in order to develop a mindset, we have to change the way we talk. Again, you know, in America, we have an individualism approach, but sometimes that approach creates, and we're going to see the details of this as we go on, it creates a place where everybody is just, the scales get tipped towards individualism and we start losing that contact. We start losing that relationship, that family feeling that we used to have at one time for those of us that are a little bit older. And now it's all about, well, you know, I'm going to buy my thing and I'm not going to share with others, and I'm going to build a fence to make sure that my things don't get used. Well, there's so much more when we share. There's so much a beautiful experience in that whole process. And so just like detoxification, changing your mindset doesn't happen overnight. Be patient with yourself. And with a team of people that support you, a support system, you find that it's a lot easier to move from a toxic mindset, from a toxic body, into a healing process. And when we have those moments of healing crises, as we term it, which is a condition in which your body is reacting to the process and you think you're sick, and it's your body of just reversing the process. So it is with this process of understanding, having a we mindset. And so we have more fun together than we do separately. There will be dips. There will be situations that we as a tribe are going to have to deal with, and learn how to operate through them. But you know what? Those are opportunities of growth. So with a new mindset must come a new way of speaking. And let me say it to you this way. This is Hector's quote. In order to do something new, we must think and speak the new thing before we see it. And so just throw some terms at you for the new language that we're going to have. What is tribal culture, tribal leadership, which we've addressed a little bit. What is a noble cause, a core value, triad network, a triad anatomy, tribal stages. These things we're going to delve into each one, and it'll make a whole lot more sense. And that's why we're encouraging you to read the book and listen. Do both. Listen to the audio, and you're going to get so much more out of this whole webinar series. So, creating a tribal culture is easier said than done. The contrast of individual corporations versus an organization, and I like the word organization because it's closer to, the root word is organ, from the body. And for now, we have been living in an area of being a product worker. I don't know how many of you have heard these terms, but a product worker is somebody that produces and then they're done. And so the industrial age gave way to this type of thinking, and employers are like, okay, we use them and then we abuse them and then we put them to the side. That's where the carrot and stick comes from. We'll put a carrot before you, but we'll stick you to death. And there's a new term that, at least for me, it was Franklin Covey who spoke it, and that was Steve Covey. He said, knowledge workers is the new era. A knowledge worker is somebody who, by their knowledge, has the ability to create something new. We together, as knowledge workers of what we know in our experiences, will create a new world. This is why creating a tribal culture is so essential. And there's plenty of examples, right? Look at Google, Zappos, Apple. These people were knowledge workers, and they created an environment of a tribe that their products were awesome and still are awesome because they put more value in the knowledge worker than in making people perform. So you are not an object. You are a person. You're a human being. You are not a human doing. And each one of us brings something very special. I like to use that word human being. Let me spell it to you in a different way. HUE-MAN, human, right? In the sense of hue, we each have different shades of color to make a beautiful tapestry, to make a beautiful rainbow that the world can see. It's a new way of life. So, where are we now? We are in a place where we're in a transition point. We can stay stuck by our choices and by the belief that what we see being pumped towards us through media and everything else, in a time of war for some of us, or we can make the choice to say, there's so much more to life than this, and I can make a difference, and I can leave a legacy, and I can be love, as Dr. Moore says, and experience it, not just for me, not just for a moment, but consistently. And what's so wrong with dreaming that kind of dream? Is it possible? Well, even if it's not possible, isn't it worth at least trying? Have you ever heard the quote that says that shoot for the moon? If you miss and you get to the stars, you know, or shoot for the stars. If you miss and you get to the moon, you're doing good. Meaning it's worth, anything that's worth doing, it's worth repeating.
Yeah, Hector, what just came to mind was that quote from Napoleon Hill when he says, what the mind of man can conceive, he can achieve.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And that's why this is possible, because of what Carolyn just said. If we can conceive it in our minds, we can achieve it. And if we can conceive it together, we will achieve it that much more faster. Because, you know, think of it as everybody shooting little BB guns. And there's a better analogy of the laser, which we'll cover sometime in the future. But if you shoot your own energy in one direction, that's just one energy. But if others come to your aid and to your side and they're all focusing on the same spot, the impact against that target is so much greater that it eventually has to give. An idea has matter to it, and that's why Napoleon Hill said that. So what is a leader? Is a leader somebody that's telling somebody else what to do? No. A leader in the most simple form is somebody who influences another person. That's it. As detox specialists, we influence, first of all, by our actions, we influence our immediate family. We not only influence our immediate family, but we start influencing others by our actions, not because we're trying to, just because we're living it. So everybody's a leader.
Something that you said to me, Hector, recently really stuck with me, and that was this concept of saturating ourselves. Anytime that we want to begin to become whatever it is that we see ahead that we want to orient ourselves around fully, we begin to saturate ourselves with whatever it is that helps us to go that way. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yes, and we do this very often without even realizing it, and that is, when you like something, you saturate yourself in that environment, and in the beginning, you are not good enough, or you're not good in it. I'm sorry, you are good enough, but we're not good at whatever that activity is, but because of our love for it, we introduce ourselves and we saturate ourselves in that process, and all of a sudden, that thing goes inside of you, and it starts to come out of you to the point where you're one with it, like the Zen thing, right? I'll use martial art. I tell people, as a martial art instructor, I tell people, you have to be bad at it long enough to like it and long enough to get good. And is that addressing the point?
Yes. Yes, thank you.
And then you get to the point where people ask you questions about it because it becomes so second nature that you will forget more than that person will learn in the next couple of years. You have completely saturated and you have become one with it to the point where it's no longer an effort. It just comes natural. This is what the beginning of a tribal culture is about. This is what creating a noble cause is about. That's why we've asked people to be involved in the creation of this noble cause. A noble cause is something that we can agree upon in not to do, but something that we can align with. So there's a difference in between if I agree with you. I don't have to agree 100%, but I can, as a detox person, as somebody walking a health journey. And And so that's what a noble cause is. The core values are the very thing that give the root to, they are principles that make life worth living. We find that we can share these. These are pretty much natural laws that everybody, again, can go, yep, that's a principle. It's not a rule, but it's a principle. And I like to think of, principles as the fence post. And, the rules are the little lines that attach from one fence post to the other. They're flexible rather than being rigid. So what is a triad? A triad, by its implication, is a three people that connect on one of these core values, on one of these noble causes, to build something in that direction. It is the ideology that three are stronger than two, that two can get into an argument. Excuse me for a second. And have a split. If two argue and split, you no longer have a pair. If three are in a discussion and two argue, the third person can bring sanity to the whole environment. So a triad is a lot stronger. Karen, you want to share anything about what a triad is to you?
I think that it's like that idea of three strands of a cord is stronger than two, and what ends up happening is that it creates a new kind of balance that like a two-legged stool wouldn't be able to stand the same way a three-legged stool would be able to stand. Got a little feedback coming on again.
Yeah, I hear that.
Anyway, so with the, if there's ever like a disagreement between two, the third one helps to balance out. If there's ever a decision to be made, there would always be kind of a tiebreaker, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. And these are, concepts. They're not rules. But if you can understand the concept of what we're trying to reach, that you can see that a triangle is one of the most strongest structures that man has created. Things that are crystalline, diamonds, they are shaped in a very similar fashion. You think of the Giza pyramid, right? Look at how that has stood the time and the test of people throwing things at it and testing it and all kinds of stuff. And if you look at this slide that I have it as slide number 22, you see that a culture of triads, it's so the smallest component of this cell group, or the smallest cell group component of a tribal culture is a triad, meaning you don't have two people or one person in charge. You have this beautiful balance which creates a very powerful structure. It's a network of a bunch of triangles chained together to make something greater. And here's where the fractal component comes in. So you repeat it over and over and over, and it gets exponentially stronger, it gets exponentially bigger, and the next thing you know, everybody's connected. Rather than, if once the leader of a particular movement dies, the thing breaks apart. And there's plenty of cultural movements that we can see that has happened. That particular person, as great as they were, and people followed them, when they died or were assassinated, as in most cases, the thing changed. And that's why a noble cause must be greater than each individual, and the tribe is more important than any individual, regardless of their position. this is what makes a triad network so beautiful, so strong, and so powerful.
And we're going to continue to talk about how we form a triad and how we form this triad networking as we continue to think about how we do our work and our play together. So please stay tuned, and we're going to get a lot more detail into this idea of a cultural anatomy.
Absolutely, and we're about that marker point right now, correct? Where we're going to open it up for any questions?
Yes, we have, I think, 2 more slides, and then.
Yes, and so, you know, when you look at this slide, you know, the culture map of what we have and what we exist in today, this is actually very accurate. These people didn't make it up. They studied a lot of organizations. They studied a lot of businesses in order to come up with this. This was 3 authors that compiled this information. And so what this is that when we are at different stages, they found out that through their studies, that at the very peak of the belly or the bell curve, half of the population are in the mindset, I'm great. So who are those? Well, think of doctors, allopathic doctors, think of attorneys, think of teachers, right? They argue for we are the point of this particular group and we change society and we give to society, so therefore, darn it, you better listen to us, or otherwise we'll walk out on you, on your kids, and we'll force you to listen to us. That's the I am great approach. But that leaves victims in the process. And so there's a percentage of people that feel separate from those I am great kind of people, and then they say, you know, my life sucks. If I was like one of those people, I would be better. That's the wrong thinking, because everybody has a value to give. And when you get really down the drain and you get depressed, then you say, life in general, there is no hope, therefore life sucks. And from time to time, we can experience a 22% of the population that gets excited about, man, we could really do something great if we could get together. Therefore, this moment is great. This moment in life is great. But there's a greater component to this. And very few people ever reach this. And this is our aim in the Costa Rica project, in the tribal culture that we are creating together, is that this innocent wonderment is think about the world without disease. Think about the world without the people thinking, this is my cancer, I am diabetic. Making those claims that they are identifying with some kind of form of a lack of ease. A world, think of a world full of people that are excited because they love to connect to the earth and they love what they do and they are sharing in their resources. It's not mandated by a government that's telling us you have to eat this way and you can only drink sodas that are this much, and, you know, no, this is something that's intuitive to all of us. That 2% should be 98% of the population, and that's what we're aiming for. You want to add anything to that, Carol?
Yes, we're going to talk more about these stages in detail, and so we want you to join us again for this. You can also find this information in the way that it was put forth in the book. We're putting our particular emphasis on it in the way that we're bringing it into our world, the way we're going to put, what do you say, the rubber to the road, or put the walk in our talk. These 2 steps that are being shown here are just questions to be asking yourself between now and the next time we meet. which is going to be next week. We'll be discussing in much greater detail noble cause and core values. It'll be same time, same place, next week, 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. That webinar will be posted as you saw in the other ways that this particular webinar has been posted. We want to open it up now for questions and answers. Thank you so much, Hector. Really appreciate, how you are able to talk us through this. Just great.
You're welcome. And I want to, second the motion that Karen said. Think about these two questions or this place. What are the stages that I find myself most of the time? What are the stages that I fluctuate from and to? And how do I stay at a higher stage? Whatever stage you find yourself, the question is, what do I need to do to stay at that higher stage? And we'll have some more discussion on how to create these places.
And it comes back to this idea of iron sharpens iron.
Yes.
It's not something that we have to do in lone wolf style. What we're hoping to do is the more we hang out together and the more we talk about these things, it's sort of just the natural evolution of our, progressive consciousness and healthy living. And we're talking about mental and emotional health as well as physical health. So as we hang out together, we talk about all these ideas and move into actually living them, in whether we're in our respective places or where we come together for our revitalization groupings, our conferences, eventually our healing center. All of this is where we will be able to saturate ourselves and to be able to move naturally into the next stages for wherever it is our starting place is.
Any comments or questions?
Please ask away. We really want to invite participation, and we've had a lot of questions along the way. We certainly have been asking and trying to find, the kind of answers that will take us through these next steps.
Yeah, I'm trying to go through. Some people are texting, and I'm trying to read through it, so I'm trying to find anybody that had any questions. Marco, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still. I'd like to ask an open question. Perhaps I'm trying to think of what someone may ask, or just a random question. So regarding this,
anybody out there? Very good.
Can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to ask a random question that I think other people may, some people may find themselves in. So what if you're in an organization or in a life situation? What would be your take on this? You're in a situation where you feel that you need the job, you've got the job, you don't particularly like the job, your boss is against you, there's nothing you can do to change the organization. Maybe you group together with other people that feel the same way, so you make yourself feel better. But, it's just a waste of time. You know what the boss is like. We've been here before. We're all really cynical. What would you say to somebody like that?
So that's a question for us. How would we answer that?
Well, it's a good question to put out there, and I think there's a lot of people that are in that particular situation in their life. And so one of the things that we are wanting to have happen, not just us individually, but by us all coming together, is to create these opportunities and places and spaces for us to be able to come into those kind of freedoms, get unshackled from that. part of it is a kind of mindset as well. For some of the things that you were saying in the questioning, Marco, sounds like what we would do is go in and begin to identify what stage that kind of mindset is in, and then we would begin to work with somebody by maybe placing them in with a triad work and get them to see that there is a path out of what their current situation is, to be able to go forward into the next stage of evolution.
Absolutely.
See, with the idea that we all want to get into this mindset at stage 4 and 5, which is, you know, we're great and life is great.
Right. And, you know, Einstein said we cannot solve the current problems that we face at the same level of thinking that we created them. So your question is correct, but it makes an assumption. That is, that it's a different mindset. When somebody asks that question, they're only asking it from a reality that is current to them. And we don't know what we don't know because we haven't been there yet. And that's why the mindset has to begin to change, right? How can somebody know what it is to live disease-free or live such a vibrant life where you don't have to sleep so much, where you don't have to eat so much, where you don't always have to feel these pains? You've never been there. How do you introduce that to somebody that has never experienced it? And let me show you something that really does add to this whole thing. Talking with one of the triad members that created this webinar, which was Brittany, and she helped us a great deal, so thank you. A shout out to her.
Thanks, Brittany.
And, you know, one thing that we saw with her, that it was so serendipitous, and I wish she would just get up on the mic and talk about it, is how when we were talking to her, she was experiencing some really awesome movements in her personal life, and this education and these things are just lining up in her life. See, when you change your mindset, you change your frequency and your vibration, and you start attracting the things that you want. So one more quote: feed what you want and starve what you don't want. That's how you change your mindset. She's texting at me, and I couldn't understand. I'm like, whoa, slow down, girl. You know, I don't, I'm having a hard time comprehending. And this is quoting Brittany. I know, I'm on the high point of inspiration right now. That's the kind of language that we want to hear from every single person, that we are inspired to create, because we are co-creators, and they should inspire each one of us.
Okay, so we are at our hour. I want to thank everybody for coming on board today. It may have, for some, felt like, you know, a no-brainer. Yes, we got to get on this call, and for others, it might have been a step, you know, a step out, feeling like you were taking a little bit of a risk. We want to make sure that everybody understands that the donations that have been made today will be going towards the Costa Rica project, at least 50% of them, and then we're still working on what, you know, how to structure these things. But more to come, I guess, is all to say, because we're growing and we're unfolding and we're co-creating all along the way. So please keep participating, keep questioning, keep the comments, because we're listening, we're all listening to each other, and it's important that we keep hanging together and saturate ourselves with these ideas so that we can create what we conceive.
Thank you so much for being a part of it, and stay tuned, more to come.
Bye-bye, everybody.
It's uncanny, to have connected, on Facebook.